Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you episode number 101. We are back here with
Meat.
What's your name? Same name as before, I see. So that means we are here with some White2T teas. We have a cake and we got some balls too. We got
Tea balls again.
Tea balls. So right here we already have our samples prepared. We're doing about 4 grams for a 60-70 milliliter gaiwan. So here's the tea balls. And here is the cake.
Nice.
So we'll start with the tea balls. I have not explained to Meat what these are, but these are 2 different teas from the same farmer. And there's different quality material here, so we're gonna just get going.
So these aren't very strong smells. Are these black teas or are these?
These are raw Pu'erh.
Raw Pu'erh.
Yeah. So these are very freshly processed in 2016.
Nice.
So
the tea balls have a number 2 on them. Is there any? Thanks.
I think that might just stand for White2T potentially, or maybe there's two balls.
Well, both of them have 2 on it, so it could be White2T, like you said.
Yes.
Anything on here? Just White2T 2016 Mengsong.
Yep.
Tea Club. Now Mengsong is a region, right?
Yep, you are absolutely correct.
And we had at least one tea before.
Yeah,
from
we
Mengsong.
had the raw Pu'erh and the black tea from Mengsong before.
There we go.
These are from different farmers, from a different farmer, I should say.
Okay.
So we're going to give that one quick rinse, and we'll do a couple infusions. So again, this is the tea ball that we are brewing right now. So the compression's a little bit different, but I think I did my best to break that up the best as I could. So we should hopefully get fairly even brews.
So White2T folks are, they seem to be doing interesting stuff and trying out a lot of new things here and there, right? I mean, I guess that's the purpose of having a tea club going and sending out samples.
Yeah.
Once every month.
Part of the cool thing is just that, like, a lot of people are trying the same teas, so it makes it easier for discussion. And so, and you can also do interesting comparisons like this because you have more control over what you're getting.
Right.
Yeah. So let's take a smell of that.
Looks like the first 2 infusions are. Wow, smells very flowery almost.
Yeah, really floral, really fresh. Yeah.
And, well, I mean, as you saw, the very light color of brewing, which is kind of reflective of young teas.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And
cheers, guys.
Cheers. Starting to break up pretty good.
Yep. So the leaves are starting to encompass most of the gaiwan in here. What kind of notes are you getting off of that tea?
Man, it's tough. It's very light. The leaves, after the first infusion, the smell was great, of the leaves, but personally I'm not getting a whole lot from the tea so far. Also, it's a little bit warm for my liking, so I'm gonna go gradually and see if I can.
It is a little bit warm for my liking as well, so we're gonna stall for time. We need a teleprompter on top of that.
There we go.
Let's take another smell.
Still about as floral. Notes.
Floral, maybe a little bit of brown sugar, some sort of like saccharin.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Cheers, guys.
It's light, but I feel like it's on the sweeter side, as you'd kind of expect.
Do you get much bitterness from this?
Not any at this moment. At this point, What do you think?
I think there might be a light bitterness coating to it. I don't think it's a bitter tea.
Yeah, not yet. Which is another thing with young teas is like young raw pours, especially as my personal experience has been that they end up getting bitter too quick. So it'll be interesting.
And I would say
how the taste progresses here.
Yeah, and in comparison to the Mengsong mini cake that we had in previous times, I'd say that tea was a little bit more active feeling than this one. This one is a little bit more
passive,
sedated.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'd say pretty straightforward, not an incredibly complex profile. A little bit of maybe like citrus, but mainly just sort of like a generic, fresh, floral feel to it. Do you enjoy this tea?
I like it. It'd almost be like right now it feels like a, you said passive, kind of not very active tea, probably like a nighttime, before bed kind of tea if you're into, if you're into that kind of stuff.
If you're into that kind of stuff. So if you are into tea before bedtime, these tea balls are your number one friend.
I mean,
it's okay. I'm just giving you crap. All right, we'll drink the second one and then we'll move on to the second tea. Smell that too. So the aroma,
very light.
Yeah, the aroma is not the strongest I've ever ran into for a Yangsheng, but it's not weak either. Yeah. It's still a pretty pleasant in that sense. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I don't have a whole lot to add, but I agree with you definitely.
So you said that you smelled a lot of flowers in
the leaves.
Are you getting sort of that carried over into the taste?
A little bit. It's a very light taste, but I mean, I can definitely correlate between the smell, between the aroma and the taste. Excuse me.
Yep. Looking at the leaves, the material looks sort of okay. It's a little bit chopped up. We are brewing tea balls. It looks fairly small leaves. There's some stems mixed in there as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just had it.
You got a stem in your cup too?
Yep.
We do not use strainers here in TeaDB, so you got to strain them for yourself.
That's right.
Cheers, guys.
Stuff gets stuck in strainers anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you do when it gets stuck?
What do you mean?
Just wash it out, I guess.
Oh, you mean like in my cup? I do the same thing you just did.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think this brew is a little bit more bitter. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Significantly more bitter almost. You know,
I would say so too.
How quickly it escalated to that level.
And I think part of it is just because you could see that we're taking up the whole Gaiwan, so we're just getting more surface area on those leaves. So even though the steeps were about the same amount of time, it's still just going to be a stronger brew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the leaves haven't gotten as much time to age yet, right? So.
And I would say the profile is similar. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit more oily, a little bit more emphasized in its taste, but it's still the bitterness is also increased as a result. So it's not the best tea ever. So we will finish drinking this cup, and we will move on to tea number 2. All right, you ready to move on?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this.
Because we are back for part 2. So we did the ball. Now we're doing a cake. So to clarify, using 4 grams of both of these, I split the ball in 2. It is now a bit disheveled. That's fine. We're moving on to the cake form.
So they give you about, like, a ball comes out to be about 8 grams?
I think the balls are 8 grams and the cake is 50 grams.
So I suppose you get, like, probably doesn't matter it's samples, but you get a little bit less as far as the balls go.
Yeah, you do. So we'll see. We'll see how this tea is. Give this a quick rinse. So
this one also seems kind of a young tea just by looking at leaves.
Yep. So this is also 2016 from the same farmer, but different material. Yep.
Nice.
Let's take a smell.
Nice. Okay. Not as floral.
Yeah, not as floral. So it smells. Let's take a smell of this. smells quite different, doesn't it?
Yeah, very different. I can't tell what exactly is it, but let's see. I mean, I don't have the words to describe the smell exactly.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that you like the smell a little bit better? Maybe.
It's hard to say, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Gives me the hint that it might be more complex than the tea balls.
Well, we will find out. I have not had this tea either, so this is the first time for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So drinking the tea cake now from the White2Tea August Tea Club. We'll have another smell of this as well while we wait for this to cool.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the light color of the infusions maybe slightly darker than the previous tea.
Yeah, no, I think it is slightly darker. I think is the correct way to put it. So again, we're not filling up the entire gaiwan yet after 2 steeps.
Yeah.
Maybe I get a little bit more nuts in there. It is a little bit more complex, I think, in the aromatics. Definitely still some florals, but it's a different sort of floral than the previous tea.
Mm-hmm. It gives, I could be wrong, but it gives me a little bit of feeling that it might be just a little bit more bitter to start out with compared to the previous tea.
Interesting.
Yeah. Although the previous tea was floral enough that it could have powered the bitter, overpowered the bitterness. So, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, so I am interested in trying this tea now. And now that we've done steep 3 and 4, we can see sort of the material here. It's still kind of hard to tell exactly. It does look a little bit darker in this gaiwan here from the tea cake. So a little bit more of a olive green color, I think, in there.
Just barely.
Yeah.
Like if you shuffled these and show them back to me, I'm sure it'd be like 50% of the time I'd be wrong.
Yeah. Take a smell of that. And smell that.
Yeah, you definitely get more floral smell on this one.
I think the smell is a little bit deeper in this one. And it's not totally a fair comparison because this is hotter than that. So we're just able to smell a little bit better. But yeah, let's drink.
Let's try it out.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
It's a little bit hot for me again.
Yeah.
But
that's totally fine. Take your time.
Yeah, I'd agree with your statement. Slightly deeper tastes and flavors.
I think what I would do if I were you is I would pay attention to how viscous it is in your mouth, how thick it is. Is it sort of like thick like cream or milk? I think this tea is much thicker and more oily than the previous tea.
Yeah, especially given that these are the first 2 infusions. The first tea was a little bit lighter.
I would say this tea is still floral, and it just sort of sticks in my mouth a little bit longer.
Okay. Yeah. These are young teas, so it's kind of hard to tell, but
yeah, we'll keep drinking.
At this point,
we'll have another cup. Yeah. At this point,
nothing really stands out about this tea to me.
Okay.
And the experience was kind of similar for the first one as well.
So it's fairly similar in some sense. Do you think they're similar teas too?
They feel kind of similar. I can tell a slight difference, but it'd be really hard for me to tell them apart. I feel like the other tea is a little bit more floral, and that kind of stands out. A little bit more floral than this one. Obviously, this is also kind of floral.
That makes sense. It's sort of a different sort of floral. flowers. It's a huge category, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't know if either of us really know our orchids and our different flowers, but it is a different character. I will say that. So maybe we'll have this next one, and then we'll do a last steep of both of them side by side, and just see if it's any different.
Another stem. So here's the question, right? We've had 2 infusions of each. Would you like have these at all on a? Would you try these at all on a semi-regular basis, or on a
I want to keep
less
drinking the
frequent
teas
basis?
just to get a little bit more repetitions,
Sure.
but because I'm still not totally sure one way or the other for myself. But
That's that's the thing for me as well, is the teas are so light that it's kind of hard to come to
a conclusion.
conclusion.
So for this steep, the first tea got more bitter, fuller a little bit. So this tea, we would expect it to do something similar. Get a little bit stronger.
Right.
All right, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Well, here's a slightly different question for you. Do you tend to have a lot of young teas, or some?
I drink a very small amount of young teas. I do mainly because I get samples sent to me and stuff like that.
Right.
But I do enjoy them on occasion. Just tends not to be what I turn to. What about yourself?
I want to say I drink a lot of Wuis, so the fact that they're roasted, sometimes I do end up having younger teas, and they're still okay.
But your main go-to for a Wui is about 10
it's about
years
10
old.
years old. So, but that's I want to say that's the oldest Wui I've had on a constant basis.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had a couple of older Wuis, but
They
not
haven't been
obviously not on a constant basis. Yeah. Also, price ends up being a huge factor. The older you try to get a Wui.
Yeah. So what do you think of this steep now?
It's slightly bitterer, but as far as the fullness and thickness, it's hard for me to tell. This one seems fairly similar, but I could be wrong. What are your perceptions on that?
I think this tea is thicker. I notice more of depth of taste to some extent. I have sort of like a lingering at sort of like the back of my mouth and my throat.
Right.
And it gives like really nice sweet feeling there.
Right.
Still feeling the tea out too. I think it's a little bit less. The bitterness for me is easier to take in with this second tea than it is the first
tea?
which I found a little bit more unpleasant. So I think the bitterness is really nicely coupled with a lot of other things. So for me, my preferences are pretty clear at this point. I do like this tea more. But let's also do a couple steeps side by side just to see them more closely on how they perform. All right, guys, we are back, and we have right in front of us, you can see we have some smaller cups right here. So we have steep number 5 and 6 of both teas. So these are the same steeps of both teas. We're also going to take a quick smell of both of these. So this is the tea balls and the cake. Why don't you take a smell of both and tell me what you think. If you prefer one aroma or if you find them to be very different.
I want to see what you think.
I feel like this one is a little bit like deeper and darker. I would say darker in terms of that. This one continues to be pretty singular, very floral. Yeah. As far as leaves go, it's hard to tell because we're getting a little bit chopped up leaves in here, but they look to be a little bit bigger in general. So we have, this is steep for meat. This is the first tea we had,
Right.
the tea ball, and then this is also for me for
Second tea.
for the second tea.
From the
So
cake.
we will be making our final judgments on these steep. And so until next month, let's get going. So
Yeah.
here is the tea ball. Cheers,
Cheers.
guys. A little bit citric. It continues to be a bit bitter, I would say, throughout the taste. The body is decent and consistent. A little bit nutty even in here. Pretty consistent with what we said. The bitterness didn't grow, I don't think, but it's still definitely there, and it sort of hits you back a little bit as far as the taste.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the body didn't grow as much either. Like, I felt like a distinct jump in viscosity and thickness from the first steep to the second.
Mm-hmm.
And then this third one is kind of around the
Leveling
same
off.
level. Yeah.
Makes sense. I think I agree. I think it might actually be a little bit thinner.
Mhm.
All right, so now let's drink this tea while it's fresh in our memories.
Right.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
What do you notice here?
This is distinctly more bitter
Mm-hmm.
than the other tea, but as you said, this has a bit more character to it as well. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's doing this sort of side by side. It's really easy to tell that this tea is just much thicker in the mouth, and for me, it's coating a lot of it. I think you're definitely right on the bitterness. I think this tea may actually be more bitter than the other tea. It definitely feels stronger in terms of like effects, and stronger, I would say, in a good way. Not stronger in the sense that it's like
Knock you out,
punches
kind
us
of. Yeah.
in face more. So,
Right.
what about you?
Yeah, I think, I'm thinking if you're thinking sort of long term, I think like the second tea might be a good way to go.
Mhm.
Like, I think it'd be interesting to see how it ages
Mm-hmm.
over time compared to the first tea, as it's very linear. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to add here. I think they're both,
So if you had
in
to
a
pick
similar
one,
vein.
you would pick the second tea.
I would pick the second tea, mostly in the sense that I won't be drinking either of those, right now. But
So
maybe
neither,
see how they grow later on.
So neither one is particularly interesting to the W2T drinker right now.
Oh, great.
But you pick out the second one if you were to choose one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I agree. I don't think I think I would continue to steep these.
Excuse me.
My guess would be that the second tea would continue to steep out more. Feels like, kind of like you said, pointed out, like this tea, it felt like it had leveled off. I would think that this tea would slowly start to die and maybe finish up, I don't know, 10 steeps or so. This tea felt like it really has a lot of legs to it, and the fact that it continued to get stronger on steep 5 or 6 rather than sort of leveling out. We're not going to do that because we're not going to do a Lord of the Rings InBetweenIsode. But although we could fight hobbits or something, I don't know. But
No,
I
we are the hobbits. We
I
can't fight
think this
hobbits.
tea would have a lot more legs and a lot more to say if we steeped it out to 10 times, and I think by that time this tea will probably be knocked out. As far as like either one being like a thing that I would drink normally, well, I don't really drink young Pu'erh that much, so I think sort of like me, I would echo his response that I probably wouldn't drink them either. This tea definitely is the one that has my interest though.
Right. I agree. I'm right there with you. I wonder, have you met a whole lot of people that are interested in trying out younger teas?
Definitely, a lot of Westerners really like young teas, and I can understand the appeal of sort of like a very fresh floralness to me.
That's true.
But I mean,
I
it's
think
kinda
as you mature as a drinker, you also want older teas. I could be wrong.
It could be.
That's how I've
some people
grown to,
Uh-huh.
like, in my sort of,
Yeah, like
journey of drinking
initially,
tea.
for you it wasn't really Pu'erh, it was more through oolong, right? Like
Sure.
initially liking sort of
Yeah.
like the really flesh
Yeah.
floral oolongs and slowly gravitating towards darker or maybe even older teas.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that could be the case for someone. There's also nothing at all wrong with liking young teas. And I think this is an interesting comparison. The teas taste different. You can agree there, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So same farmer,
Yes.
same area. And I think the quality of this material is just supposed to be better in general.
Right, I think, like, drinking them side by side made a good distinction,
Mm-hmm.
as far as, overall they seem similar, but there's still significant difference between the two teas.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I think the other last thing to pay attention to for Pu'erh is like how your mouth sort of feels afterwards. And for me, like, I feel like it's mainly through this tea, although it can sometimes be hard to tell. But I feel like it's sort of like a mouth-watering sweetness here that just sort of like coating my mouth. So the tea might have been bitter, but it's changed into sort of a sweet feeling, which I find to be very pleasant.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I would say the same.
Yep. You don't have to
No.
agree with me for everything.
But
You're not a yes man.
could be a yes man.
You could be a yes man. It's like we just bleep out everything every time you don't agree with me. Anyways, that concludes the InBetweenIsode for August. We'll be back in September for some Labor Day InBetweenIsode. I don't know what it's going to be.
Y2T.
Yeah, so White2T. Thank you guys for tuning in. Cheers.
Cheers.